Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Dutiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Buddham saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Dhammam saranam gacchami, Tatiyampi Sangham saranam gacchami. This completes the going to the three refuges. Anyatipada Viramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from harming or destroying living beings. Adina Dana Viramani Sakapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given. Kamesu Michachara Viramani Sakapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct. Musa Vada Viramani Sakapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from wrong speech. Sura Mareya Maja Padatana Viramani Sakapadam Samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from intoxicants that cause carelessness. I undertake the precept to refrain from sources of livelihood that bring harm to other beings. I undertake the precept to refrain from acting out of ill will or taking satisfaction in the misfortune of others. I undertake the precept to be open-hearted and generous in all my relationships with others. I undertake the precept to act with loving kindness and compassion in all my relationships with others. I undertake the precept to live with mindfulness and follow the Eightfold Path through daily study, meditation, and reflection. With these 10 precepts, virtue becomes the vehicle for a happy existence. Through virtue, good fortune is attained. Virtue is the vehicle for liberation. Let us purify our virtue. This completes the 10 precepts. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be free from ill will. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all beings make themselves truly happy. Thank you and good evening. Once again, I noticed that the timer was in a strange setting. Was it working okay this afternoon?
Timing was off.
What's that?
The timing was off.
The timing was off. Okay. Well, hopefully we'll get that all sorted out by tomorrow. I had to change the batteries last night. I think some things may have not got set quite right. So, Has anyone had any interesting discoveries or insights as a result of observing sensations? Yes?
Oh, please go ahead. It's just something general, but I think by observing eating, I noticed that the mouth has so many nerve endings, and we have to be extremely careful while we eat because it's easy to indulge, and eating is something we can easily indulge our mind into, and we need to pay extra attention to while we're eating.
It certainly is. Food, eating, restaurants, fine dining, people becoming overweight.
It's like addiction.
Eating a lot of fast foods, addictions, yes, that's true. So you were noticing not just the sensations, but the pleasurable qualities both from the physical sense and the mind associated with that.
Okay, I have insight. When I do the walking meditate, I walk to somewhere back, and I hear the neighbor's music. It's rap music. I said, the first reaction is, great, here meditate, here rap, okay, music. Then immediately I realized, whoa, that is the things I against and push. I think ideally in my mind, meditate, suppose, that I have idea that, I'm quiet, and I see the mind had a stimulation immediately against that. And as soon as the thoughts come, and I recognize right away, and I watch that, the feeling of against that sound, okay, and I put a label, to that sound. Very interesting, when I go the other way around, music come again. They have a period of why, because I walk very slow, and they stop, okay, and they're very quiet. And when I walk on the other side, and I hear the music again. But maybe because the realization and the awareness there in the first, reaction. So second, I still sense, sound, but much subtle than the first react. That is the things and help me to recognize that is my pattern, react, when the things I dislike. And that is the things I observe.
Yes, that's good. So that's recognizing your reactions, being mindful of them is, amongst other things, it is the first step towards establishing equanimity. So, Sean?
Just make some comments on his sense of eating. I think as long as we observe the sense of your taste or the sense of anything, any sense organs, it's just like the sound. We do not. Yes, we should not craving. We should not crave for anything to avoid suffering. But as long as we observe as much clear as it is, every phenomenon cannot last long, very long. It disappears itself. So we need not to fear about the substance of the phenomenon, because there is no substantial entity of everything, including the taste or the sense of touch or sense of hearing. They all come and go by itself. So you need not to stop it or not to push it, to keep avoiding these kind of things. It will disappear by itself. So it's empty, I think. So just let it come, and if you need not to fear or you need not to stop them. It'll come by itself, it'll go by itself.
Yeah, that's true. The sensations come by themselves and they go by themselves. They are impermanent. But the problem comes that we pursue them anyway. We keep trying to, which is why we have addiction to food, which is why we have people who are overweight, which is why we have people who spend a lot of time and energy and money in the pursuit of the sensual pleasures that are obtained from food, because they haven't recognized the impermanent and ultimately unsatisfactory nature of these sensations. But yes, when you do, that's exactly right. When you recognize them for what they are, and when you recognize your mind's reaction to them, then that's where the equanimity comes, and then at that point it's no longer a problem. But before the equanimity is there, before the knowledge, the recognition is there, then they can be a great problem, and as you know, they are a great problem for many people. So. But yes, that's a very important thing to notice about sensations, about pleasure, about physical pleasure and mental pleasure, all of them. They rise and they pass away. They rise and pass away due to causes. They're empty of any sort of self-existent nature. They are what your mind makes of them. And they come and go. They're impermanent and ultimately unsatisfactory. You had something more to say, Michael?
Yes, sir. I think indulgence in eating can easily lead to other lustful desires, because it's like people who are addicted to one drug, most often are addicted to other drugs too. And the same applies to people who are not very mindful of their eating and they overindulge in eating.
That's right.
They easily can have addictions in other ways, and that will take us further and further away from the path that we like to be on.
Yes, and that's why we have the admonition to guard the senses. And what guarding the senses means is being aware when these kinds of sensual pleasures and their mind's reaction to them create the danger. So that, and I mean, some people would interpret guarding the senses as avoiding eating anything that tastes good, or avoiding doing anything that feels good, and that's not what it means at all. Guarding the senses means, because even if you try to avoid that, what will happen is you're still going to experience things that are pleasurable and attractive, and because you've been denying yourself, you're just going to be that much more strongly attracted to them. Guarding the senses means, the guarding part is the mindful awareness, the vigilance by which you recognize the reactions and you recognize if some sort of compulsive attachment is developing to that. And of course food is one of those very basic things that we have especially strong attraction to. It's very natural. You can become compulsively addicted to rap music, but it's not quite the same thing as food.
May I? Yes, I like to share my insight that probably ridiculous and crazy. You can laugh. I'm going to laugh with you.
Okay.
The past 2 days, I was driven by my desire to find a perfect location to do outdoor meditation. Mm-hmm. And I was like a crazy woman holding my blanket and my mat. I check every spot in the outdoor and I try on every possible place, try to find a perfect spot to do my, daytime meditation. and I failed. Some spot too noisy by the water, the sound of water. Some spot is, after I settle down, the sun move, and then too much sunshine. Some spot, after I settle down, the dogs start barking, and the neighbors probably they are doing the electrical solar or something, or
some kind of tool.
some kind of motor stuff. After I settle down in my perfect position, then that noise arises, and sometimes a truck, coming. I mean, there's a no spot that made me satisfied. And today I realized I was really crazy. So I officially announced to myself, this is the ending of my outdoor meditation. I'm going to stay indoor and deal with myself. Because when I look at myself holding my blanket and my mat, just go there like a crazy woman looking for every spot. And I fell miserably.
I'm going to give up my plan to move out tomorrow.
So I wanted to share that it's really true. There's a no place is perfect. It's impossible. So I just going to sit here and deal with myself.
That's dukkha, isn't it?
That's dukkha. But the past 2 days, I wasn't. I really is crazy. My mind wasn't right.
The other thing that you might notice about that, in terms of the senses and sensation, is that you have very limited control over sensation, right? What comes, whether it's the sun or sound or anything else.
No perfect place.
There's no perfect place, and there's no control, or very limited control over it. So, and you can spend all your time trying to find the perfect place. Thank you. That's a good story. Yeah.
For that, I can comment the one thing. I find a place I'm so enjoying.
See, we have a different karma.
Not the karma. That's the point I want to point out. The most important is you find a place. The perfect is inside, not the outside.
Here.
Yeah. Well, the perfect is inside here.
Inside here, yeah.
Right.
And the water, the sun, for the creek, I feel like so smoothly and helping me and there. And I, beside the water, I hardly can hear any other sound at all. And I just say, today is no traffic, no car pass by or what. I cannot hear anything at all. Beside the water.
You have a good karma.
And that's the emptiness of the sound of water. The sound of water is empty from its own side, because to one person it's a distraction, to the other it removes distraction.
Exactly. So dependence. Interdependent.
Yes. Well, it's true that it's interdependent. In this case, what we would say is that the reality is a projection of the mind. Your mind projected it as a one kind of reality, and that was your karma. And Deborah's mind projected as a different kind of reality, and that's her karma. You have much more control over the projections of your mind through learning to understand your karma than you have over the external world and the impact on your senses. And that's an important thing to remember, that if you make your happiness dependent upon trying to control the environment, the external factors, by trying to control what impacts on your senses and how it impacts on your senses, you will have a lot of frustration. But on the other hand, the other half of it, since it is empty, since the sound of the water is empty, you can determine whether for you have the good karma of finding the water that removes the distraction, or the bad karma of having the place that's otherwise perfect be made imperfect by the sound of the water. So, yeah.
One thing I'm not quite understand why keeping say that is karma. I think that is through the Dharma practice we practice that, to accept and the environment and do not judging. But why keeping say that's karma?
Because that is karma. That's cause and effect. The cause is the Dharma practice and letting go of the judging, and the effect is the result.
Oh.
Okay, so it's cause and effect.
Yeah, cause and effect. Okay.
Yeah.
That cause and effect is karma.
That's right. I didn't mean karma. It was because something either of you did in a past life. It's because it's the karma that's the result of what both of you are doing in your mind in this life that produces this particular effect. Yes?
I was going to share the same experience, so I would say people that. But more generally, I think I have a controlling personality. I want to optimize things. So if we think about craving as wanting things not to be as they are, I think this personality fits perfectly. So my question is, do people with this kind of personality have more difficulty advancing in the meditation practice? Certainly this kind of personality, I think, helps somewhat in let's say, the worldly things.
Yes, that personality may be beneficial in certain kinds of ordinary things.
Right.
Will you have more difficulty? Because the power of craving is so strong in every person, including the craving that things be in a particular way and the desire to control the way things are. It's true that you may have more of that than the average person. But what that means is, whereas the average person has a 10 million ton mountain to move, you have an 11 million ton mountain to move. The massiveness is so much
So
that your what you are more than the rest is not so much.
But I do feel like the difference between Dharma and the Yosana, and also the difference between me and people around me, things that wouldn't bother them would bother me tremendously. So are we talking this million mountains difference?
Yeah, the difference between you is not so great compared to the task as a whole. But also, what you find is that the mountain disappears by itself when you find the right approach to it. When you recognize what's taking place in your mind and the way you're doing this, then you can let go of it. When we talk about grasping, the opposite of grasping is letting go. And the thing about letting go is it may be hard to get to the point of letting go in terms of understanding, recognizing the need, But the act of letting go is very simple. It's entirely simple. So, if you're all I have to do let go is it's very easy. But coming to the point of recognizing, I can. Well, actually, do you know there's a story that you're probably familiar with? Apparently, in some places in the world, they trap monkeys.
Oh, yes.
And in order to trap the monkey, they take a coconut, cut a hole in it, and they put a stone inside. No, not a stone. They put a banana inside. It's fruit, something that so the monkey reaches in through the hole, grabs the banana, and then his hand won't come out while he's holding the banana, and so he's trapped. And that's really a good example of the monkey can't figure out that the problem is that his greed attaches him to the banana, and it's the same thing. Our craving, our desire, we want things the way we want things, And as long as we're in that place, we can't let go. But if we ever if the monkey ever figures out to let go of the banana, or if we ever figure out and truly understand how we're causing our own problem through our attachment, our craving, then the letting go is very easy. So.
Conceptually, it makes perfect sense, but in the moment, I act like the monkey.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I mean,
well, that's right.
So the tendency, my habitual tendency is to do things, and as I become more aware, I may do less of this controlling. But I wonder if there is a special kind of meditation for people like
Yes, it is. Mindful awareness, yeah. Noticing every time that's happening. Really, and we'll talk more about this, but that is the most powerful medicine in the world. Just becoming aware, just catching yourself in the act and say, without even changing what you're doing, just knowing that this is what you're doing and just knowing that this is the result of it, which practicing mindful awareness. And through meditation, you develop the habit of practicing mindful awareness in the rest of your life, and that's really where the payoff is. It's not the retreat's over with, and then you forget all this and go back to the world. Or if you meditate in your daily practice every day, the bell rings and meditation's over, and then you get up and you turn off your mindful awareness. The idea is that you keep that mindful awareness going, and you see what's happening. You see how your desires and your aversions create mental states, and then you become the prisoner of that mental state. And you suffer the consequences of that mental state, And it's just a question of seeing it. The wonderful thing about mindful awareness is, and the wonderful thing about your mind is your mind is incredibly logical. So if you can just bring yourself to see what you're doing, your mind will stop doing it. So by catching yourself in the act and clearly recognizing the consequences of your actions, it takes only so many times of doing that before you'll notice that your mind changes and it doesn't do quite the same thing anymore. Very powerful medicine. And I know some of you have been practicing that. Would you attest to the fact that it really works, right?
Yeah. I could completely identify with what you said, because as a single child, I know, as far as being a control freak, and I'm the control need-free queen. My husband could attest to that. But I think what initially helped me is that conceptually it makes perfect sense, except the habit is so strong that the momentum is there. It's very hard to just say, okay, stop from this point on. But you had to, what helped me was I made a determination that, I want this to stop, because this creates not only my suffering, but also the people around me. So if conceptually works, but you can't do it, but at least try to say, okay, I'm not going to do it, even though initially it might drive you crazy. You just can't, you can't do it, but you just force yourself to just don't do it, and tell yourself that the world's not going to fall apart because you don't do something. And after a while, you kind of start to get used to it. Say, okay, I could see it, but I don't have to react to it.
Well, falling apart could be a good thing.
Super.
In fact, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can comment to that. My experience is that I admire you try to stop, and I don't think I can stop myself.
But it'll get easier.
But I want to mention is that just like Culadasa mentioned, just observe, and once I catch that, my mindfulness catches. Oh wow, I'm doing that. Just like I just mentioned, is okay. I'm against that music. Okay, once I do that, and just keeping by watching, and that's so powerful, and that the strong against that collapse itself. Now my experience, I don't need to stop it. Once I see that clearly, and once again, and the mind stop itself. I'm not use my will, to stop it. No. So this is not a practice the 道德. I don't know, 好品性. I don't know how to say in English. Okay, but however, I feel like it's very powerful.
But Deborah, may I add this? You have to understand that this is a step. The practicing Dharma take steps. The control freak, like my friend, I think she need to practice step by step. Even you explained to her, to Tracy, if maybe you already reached that step, but maybe June haven't. So she needed to practice from the beginning, step by step.
It takes a while. It's kind of like initially, civilization established laws to prevent people doing certain things to harm themselves. So other people say you cannot kill, cannot steal, cannot do certain things. Only because that's for the ignorant part. Because if you just, if there's something or a rule that says you can't do it, then you won't do it. You follow it, not because you understand it. But once you see the consequence, you don't necessarily have to follow the law, because logically you just know, because you know the cause and effect of it. It takes a while.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And what I'm saying that is, for me, I feel that not even that harder than stop. I say it's easier for just by looking at it, instead of I force myself to stop. That is what my point is. Not even go that far. Just watching it, you can see the power itself. That's what I want to try to point out.
But be able to watching is already very good. Sometimes the control freak not be able to watching, they just react right away.
That's right. Well, that's what, with all of our strongest habits and with all of our, the biggest problems that we have is that the tendencies are so strong that we just act. And then there's a second part to it, is that there's a tendency to judge. We want to be in a particular way and we want to not be in another way. So first of all, we do these things without even realizing it, and then we realize we've done it, and so rather than confront and examine our minds and our motivations and our actions and our consequences, which is what, even after the act is over with, you can practice mindfulness. You can say, that was the event, that was the reaction of my mind, and this is the consequence of it, But we don't. Instead, it's like as soon as we realize that we did that thing again, we want to push it away and not look at it. Right?
So you're saying focus on pay more attention to the consequence, and that would be.
Look at the whole thing. Look at the cause. Look at the action, and look at the consequence. And not in judgment, but just recognize them. Just allow the power of your mind to understand these things. This is the cause, and this is the action, and this is the consequence.
But what if the consequence of my being controlling actually makes everybody happy in certain rare situations?
Well,
Like what? I wonder.
Like at work, sometimes, that's the thing I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
So you use the analogy of channeling your energy to reward this part of your mind and not giving more energy to the other part. I feel that at work, the controlling part of me is constantly being rewarded. Maybe the solution is to give up work.
I don't understand.
Why not learn to distinguish between the times that it is rewarded and the times that it produces dissatisfaction and unhappiness? Yeah. You see, you can do both, but you can come to recognize the difference. If your controlling nature is sometimes beneficial, which I can see that it would be sometimes, and other times it's a problem, then it's not a question of changing yourself so that you never have any desire to be in control, but rather that you can clearly distinguish when it's beneficial to exercise this faculty that you have and when it's better to restrain it. As a matter of fact, at some point you may find that it doesn't even arise on those occasions when it's not beneficial to yourself and to others. The point is that when it's creating a problem, that you're aware of that, and not in a judging way, and not in a denying way, but just in a clear and understanding way. Yes?
I have a separate question I like to ask. It seems like the mind can be extremely compliant when the mind is comfortable and the body is comfortable.
Yes.
And it seems like there are different ways that the mind and the body can be comfortable. One is through direct wisdom. I think, of course, that's the best way. We understand certain things are causing us stress and we let go of them. And there are also other ways that also helps. Like when I meditate at home, I think at least compared to the beginning of the retreat meditation, the meditation quality at home is better because it's very comfortable at home. Over here, say for example, the quality of my meditation will improve right after I take a hot shower.
Mm-hmm.
The mind is more relaxed, the body's circulation is good. I recall that you mentioned several times in our meditation, gradually the mind and the body becomes more and more comfortable, and therefore it's a factor in helping us achieve even higher meditation levels. Mm-hmm. So we can do that either through ways like, for example, taking a hot shower, or if
meditate in a cup.
But there is a difference here. Over time, with practice, meditation becomes easier and you become more comfortable in your body and your mind as a result of the training, right? How would you like to be so good at meditation that you could sit down on a sidewalk on a busy street corner and go into meditation?
I'd like to do that.
I'd like to do that?
Yeah.
You won't do that if you always take a hot shower in order to get in the right mood.
So say for example, if my meditation is really, really good and I've attained a really deep understanding of reality, and it's like the monkey that can let go of that banana, mm-hmm. That therefore I wouldn't need to take rely on the hot shower anymore. I'm going to be enlightened.
I'm just suggesting that you don't want to become reliant upon manipulating your circumstances, because then you can only manipulate. Then you can only have a really good meditation when you've got the right circumstances.
Well, certain manipulation is the resource is always there. Like for example, manipulation of the breath.
Yeah.
Like for example, some other teacher like Ajahn Jeff Tamisawa Bhikkhu, the method that he taught, he encouraged manipulation of the breath, and I can see the benefit and the problem with that, and that's a technique that I typically use, because by manipulating the breath, I can feel at ease much, sooner, and then my concentration and mindfulness is gets much better, much sooner.
Any aid that's helpful is worth using, whether it's hot shower before meditation, or meditating breath, or verbally noticing the beginning and the middle and the end of the breath to help you stay concentrated, or anything like that. But there's always a point at which it's time to let go of it. There's always a point where it's served its purpose, and to continue to use it has the opposite effect, that you start to become dependent upon it. So it's just that you have to be aware of that. And if you're over eager to have a really deep, profound meditation, if that's what if you set that in your mind as that's where I want my meditation to be, and I want to be there as soon as possible, and then you always meditate under just the right circumstances, and you do whatever it is, all of the different tricks you've learned to give you the best possible meditation, then you're probably not going to do nearly as well when you don't have all of those supports available to you. If you get in the habit of using crutches, after a while you become dependent upon them. And this is this is illustrated by another one of the Dharma stories of a monk who goes off to a cave and he meditates by himself, and he develops this fantastic concentration and equanimity and loving kindness. And so then he decides it's time to go back and speak to his master, so he then heads back from the cave back to the monastery. And the first village crossroad that he comes to, where of course there's traffic going and people set up stands to, he totally loses his temper. I don't remember the details. Something's happening.
Right.
He totally loses his temper. And, no more equanimity, no more loving kindness, no more concentration. When he was all by himself in the cave, that was one thing.
Maybe both practices should be done.
Well,
and
yes.
then we shouldn't go as far as, say, for example, find the noisiest possible place to meditate. That may not yield any kind of good results at all. Yeah, at least for a beginner like me.
Yeah. And when you can, if you have your perfect place at home to meditate every day in that place, and that's great. But then when you find yourself in another circumstance, you meditate there too, and you gain the benefit of both. That's all.
So you would recommend that we do both?
Yes, sure, certainly. Yeah.
It's like training, for the exercise.
That's right.
And muscles.
To the extent that you have learned Tanjeff's method of controlling the breath, use that, but with the idea that you're only going to use it until you don't need it anymore.
Okay.
And always be looking for that day that you don't need it anymore.
I'm sorry, I want to ask a question. I think that is a more fundamental question. Is what's the purpose we do meditate? I thought the meditation, the purpose is the training, is the tool. Basically, through the meditate, hopefully we can utilize that kind of status, and we can see what's the craving and what's those things around us. That I think that is the purpose, not the. Or sometimes I confuse because we're talking things like feel comfortable and relax. That I don't think that is the purpose of the. Even though how deep the samatha is not not the purpose of meditate. I think Dharma practice, meditate is helping to do the more. I don't know. I would like to ask you, what's the purpose for the meditate, the fundamental?
Well, it's the purpose is mental training, and in the process of the mental training, attaining insight. And so the idea here of what we're talking about is that you don't. There's nothing wrong with taking advantage of things that will assist you in improving your mental training. But at the same time, it is all about mental training. It's about not being dependent upon those things. It's about learning to be able to calm the mind under any circumstances, not manipulating the world so that you can easily make the mind calm. But you can do some of both as long as you don't lose sight of that. But then the other part of the purpose of meditation, which is really important, is that in the process of training the mind, you discover the nature of the mind. And the nature of the mind is at the heart of the nature of reality. So in the process of training the mind, you have the opportunity to come to know and understand what really is the truth about yourself in all of these different ways. And that is what will liberate you, is what you learn in the process, you know. So if you make your goal only in terms of the training, then you're really missing a lot of opportunity. It's not a disaster. You could say, okay, I want to achieve samatha, I want to achieve perfect concentration, perfect mindful awareness, and joy and tranquility and equanimity. And I want to achieve those as soon as possible, and that's all you're interested in, is whatever's going to get there as fast as possible. You will, with that approach, miss out on all of the insights that are available to you in the process of the training. It's not a total loss, though. I mean, once you have a mind with concentration, mindful awareness, joy, tranquility, and equanimity, then you can take up the practice of insight. But you don't have to do it that way. And the very first time that you say, I'm going to place my mind on my breath, and something else happens, this is a lesson. What happened? Why did that happen? How did that happen? When you, as I was talking about last night, and this is another part of what I want to ask you is have any of you had any insights into mentality and materiality, nama and rupa, as we talked about last night, since then? Because when you're placing your mind on a sensation, what are the distractions that come up? If you notice what they are, you'll notice they are of two kinds. There are other sensations, and then there are all the mental objects that are triggered by those sensations. And then the mental objects that are triggered by the mental objects. Right? So, what's being presented to you right away as soon as you try to place your mind on the meditation object is the opportunity to discover that indeed it's true. All there is nama and rupa. All there is sensations and the mental formations. And these two are dependent upon each other and related to each other. So did anybody happen to notice anything in regard to that during the day today? Yes, Jackie?
Just now I was wondering your statement that reality is always here now. And yesterday I was doing a walking meditation. It's not something new, but I just realized that. You see, when we do the walking meditation, we need to watch the steps, and, the flow of the bags. And I just realized that if Mahayana has an idea of the work or suchness or emptiness, and I wonder what's that, and what's your statement, and how can I connect this together? So I realized that if we are our minds 30%, say 100% presented in the moment of the movement, and the movement become a kind of suchness.
Become what?
Suchness is
Suchness.
It's 真如实相.
Yeah.
Emptiness.
Suchness.
As it,
Suchness, thatness, yeah.
as it,
As it.
as it.
Yeah. But the problem is our minds is always not. Maybe it's too fast or too slow, or in a moment but go away, not the subject.
That's right.
So ideally, that if you're 100% present in the full steps, then we realize that that's the suchness.
That's suchness, yeah.
Just the same.
Yes, and the Buddha was known as the Tathagata, which means gone to suchness. Yeah. So,
I have a question.
yes.
How do you think of generally the Mahayana practice? I was wondering a lot, during a half hour after 6:30 today. So Mahayana they have 6 paramitas,
Yes.
and today I just realized that everybody can cite here, but it's actually 3 of them are it's about concentration, meditation, and wisdom.
That's right.
And the first 3 is the charity and discipline and endurance. It's come from the last 3 parts.
Well, usually,
And
go ahead.
wisdom is the center. It's nothing new, but just kind of realize that realize more than before through this retreat.
The perfections, those 6 perfections of paramitas are a wonderful description of the path and the practice of those perfections. And they are the way that I usually use slightly different terminology than you did, but generosity, virtue, patience, effort, concentration, and wisdom.
Yeah. I realize that it's the same as the 8 noble path. It's a different expression.
Yeah, that's a different organization of them. But yeah, thank you.
Oh, but a lot of Mahayana temples or practice. I'm coming from a Chinese Buddhist community, so nowadays I think a lot of temples are doing a lot of ritual things. So they are really, in a sense, lost a little bit the concentration and meditation part.
Yes, that's true.
I noticed that even the Shila Temple is one of the biggest temples here around, and they only organize a 7 days meditation retreat in 7 years or 8 years. It's kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Although meditation, is supposed not only in the retreat, but it's kind of a symbolic thing.
It is an unfortunate thing that has happened, so perhaps that will change. A new generation, new attitudes, new interest in meditation that may bring meditation back in. I haven't actually seen it myself, but I understand that I've been to Silai Temple, but I haven't seen the meditation hall there. I understand it's a very beautiful meditation hall. They keep it locked up, so.
That's the one, in the back of the mansion.
I think they have free lessons now. I went there during the New Year, and I saw that I think once a week they have like 1 hour of free meditation.
Yeah, the Sunday morning they have a meditation section for you.
Yeah. I don't
I'm
know
not
what quality
complaining,
is it.
but the instruction there sometimes kind of from a textbook. I'm
Well,
not against anybody or any temple. But,
now wouldn't it be nice to do a meditation retreat in the Silai Temple meditation?
that's one place, yeah. One place is very good. Yeah, it's very nice.
I think meditation is very important because I believe that one of my favorite Dharma teacher, Ayakima, she said, and also Ajahn Brahm said the same thing. They said that no joy, no meditation, no enlightenment.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, the Buddha said that too.
Yeah.
Because Buddha in the sutra, Buddha himself, he said that the joy of meditation this is the joy that I would allow myself to indulge. He said that.
Yes.
So meditation supposed to be very joyful, and we deserve to have this joy.
Absolutely.
We deserve to have this happiness, because Buddha himself indulged him into this joy. And he said in the sutra, he said that enjoy meditation, enjoy this, attached to this enjoyment, you can have 4 results. The stream winner, the
once returner,
once returner,
non-returner,
non-returner, and arahant. This is the 4 results that if you indulge yourself into jhana or joy of meditation, is in the sutra.
Is it attached?
Yes.
No, no.
No.
Oh.
He said that indulge. That he said that I would allow myself indulge this joy of meditation.
Yes.
A lot of times I don't let myself indulge because in the meditation because I want to look for answers. A lot of times it seems like certain kind of indulgence can actually slow me from progressing further and observing the truth more clearly.
Well, and what your concern is that when you use the word indulge, you're associating it with the arising of an unwholesome greed and attachment, right?
Yes.
But but just if you're going to indulge in anything, indulge
It's just one thing.
indulge in meditation.
I see. So it's the least harmful of all the indulgence.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, if you practice it successfully, it will cease to be that kind of indulgence involving attachment. And
Okay. So if I want to indulge something, don't open a bottle of wine, go meditate.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, Ben.
One thing I've noticed in my own meditation is there's a tendency to think of following the breath as very boring and mundane. But one thing I had this sudden realization was, after having the same thought over for the 14th time in meditation was like how boring really is our mental process really, because it's so repetitive and it's so trying to figure things out or trying to plan things out. All of these things just are so much more boring than a single breath can really be if you try to truly be there for it. So that's one thing.
That's a wonderful illustration there. Yeah, 14 times the same thought.
Yeah, literally. It's thousands of times. All of them.
Yeah. And the more you become aware of the contents of your mind, your mind becomes rather tiresome and tedious. It's wonderful when you can get it to just quiet down, let the joy, the calm, the peace arise. It's very wonderful. And one thing, it's not really related, but it reminded me that Jack Kornfield talks about one of his teachers. Apparently there was a student who was complaining about how boring the breath was, and so the teacher said, "Hold your breath."
Time already?
It says that, yes.
So fast.
Yeah. How's the amount of time for meditation practice been for you? I'd like a little feedback. Good? About right?
Getting better.
Mm-hmm. Are you taking full advantage of it? I heard some rumors that some people are having naps in the afternoon, so that was...
So we're doing outside.
Roaming around looking for the perfect spot.
I was looking
respond.
We have a different karma.
So, but is enough meditation time, not too much meditation time, and so forth? Yes.
I actually took a nap after lunch because I was really sleepy.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe because of it, my afternoon sit actually was good. I thought it was good because I wasn't like having food coma. But I kind of curious because I had the afternoon sit was the longest sit that I had ever had with my own will, not because I have to. But I came to this place where I feel very calm, very peaceful. There's no yearning for anything, and I was trying to keep my attention on the breath and just purely observing the sensation. But it became so sensitive with the inhale and exhale. Not that I wouldn't say it hurts, but kind of hurts.
It almost hurts, yes, I know.
And it's so sensitive, and so then I try to stop just keeping it here, and then I try to just place it somewhere else, or I lift the finger. And when I lift the finger, I could feel like all the sensations that kind of, like the nerve endings all the way kind of goes this way.
Yeah.
And I got up and I just felt like, did I do something wrong? It's like,
And that's something right. That's very powerful mindful awareness, and I'm glad that you have experienced that and that you mentioned that, because I think all of you probably have had the experience that as your concentration becomes strong, your breathing becomes very, very fine and very, very shallow. And one of two things will happen. If your mindful awareness is not high, it becomes hard to feel the breath. But you can have such powerful mindful awareness that even though you're barely breathing, the sensation is almost painful. It's so intense. And that's what you were talking about. And then you moved your awareness to another part of your body and found that you had exactly that same very intense awareness. Now in that, when you're meditating like that today, was your mind relatively free of thoughts and distractions? Almost no thoughts, just maybe the faint whisper in the background every now and then?
only the second half.
On the second half, yeah.
But do I continue because it's uncomfortable here?
Well, I would suggest you do, if you come to that space again, and hopefully you will many times more in the next few days. When you come to that time where your breath is very, very calm and quiet, your mind is very calm and quiet, your body is very still, and your awareness is sharp and high, locate some place in your body that feels pleasant, which may be in your hands or your face or something like that. Meditate on the pleasure, on the pleasant sensation, but particularly the pleasantness of the pleasant sensation, rather than the almost painful sensation of your nose.
So I'm not focusing, I'm kind of...
You're staying focused. You're completely focused. You're totally focused here, okay? And then you just allow yourself to discover, okay, there must be some place in your body that feels pleasant. You find that, and then you shift the attention. So you're sitting like this, and you find that you have a really warm, pleasant sensation in your hand. So then you leave the sensation of the breath behind and bring your awareness here. Focus on that pleasant sensation and just observe it. See what happens with it. See how it changes. But take that as a meditation object. You're now looking at it in exactly the same way you were looking at these sensations here. But instead of looking at the sensation produced by air, you're looking at the pleasantness of the sensation that has arisen in some part of your body. Okay? If the pleasantness goes away, which it might, just come back and do this again for maybe another 5 minutes and then try it again.
Okay.
Okay? And let me know what happens.
But is it okay if I take a nap?
No? Yeah, well, if you're experiencing tiredness and you think that it's due to lack of sleep, and you made your best effort to overcome the drowsiness in the practice, then maybe taking a half an hour nap is the best thing to do. Especially, you'll know that was the case if you come back and after a half an hour and you have a really, really good meditation. But in general, most of you shouldn't really need to have a nap during the day if you're getting enough sleep at night. So by saying that to you, I'm not suggesting everybody won't have a nap in the afternoon. And I really brought that up because I just wanted to get a little feedback on how you felt about the time that was scheduled for meditation and how it was working for you. Jackie?
I have a long habit of taking a noon nap.
A noon nap?
Yeah. I don't know, it's the cause of the afternoon meditation. So easy to be sleepy or not. But after in these years, I'm not so every day I have a chance to take a nap. But before people left, I had. And I realized that if I was free at home, afternoon at that time, feel sleepy.
Well, one of the reasons that we always try to schedule some extra time after the meals is often yogis in retreats will go and take a short nap after eating, either some exercise or a rest. And that's what that time is intended for. You have a little bit less time on this retreat than on previous retreats, which is part of why I'm trying to find out how the meditation time is working out. But I would much rather that you had your rest in the times that are set aside for it. You have your lunch and then you go have your rest then. Or likewise exercise. Some people, rather than having a rest that's exercise they want to do, you do that in that time rather than in the time that's been set aside and made available for practice. I'd like you to get the maximum benefit from the practice. Yeah?
Yesterday after lunch, I did 20 minutes nap, I think.
20 minutes nap.
Before I sleep.
Yeah.
And today I didn't do it. I say maybe I just instead of taking a nap and I used walking meditation. But this afternoon was quite sleepy.
Well, that's good. But yeah, I would prefer that if you can, you have your nap, during the break time.
So dealing with drowsiness is also good practice.
Yes, and I want to stress that when you're dealing with drowsiness, the drowsiness has two possible sources. One is physical and mental fatigue, which is more likely to be the case when you're meditating at home on certain occasions than when you're in a retreat. Although the first day or two in a retreat, people often have been very busy, not getting enough sleep. They go on retreat, and the first thing that happens is they got to catch up on their rest. It's not at all unusual. Many retreats that I've been to, the first couple of days, there's a lot of people doing a lot of sleeping the first couple of days. Very often they're doing sleeping in the meditation hall, sitting like this.
So by this time we shouldn't have any excuse.
But by a couple of days into the retreat, there really shouldn't be any mental fatigue, and you should actually be moving to the point where you probably can get by with less sleep, or at least you need less sleep. So the other kind of drowsiness that you experience is the dullness that comes just because your mind's calming down, the energy of your mind is diminishing, and there is a tendency for the dullness to lead to sleepiness. And when it's that kind, that's what you want to train yourself beyond. And what I mean there is that you'll go through a period where that comes up, and perhaps quite often, and if you deal with it properly, you come to a point where you'll never have to deal with it again. Or the only time you'll experience drowsiness is when you're physically tired or didn't get enough sleep before. Okay? So it was like with the other things that we talked about earlier. If every time you find you're having drowsiness in meditation, if you go have a nap, then you'll never get past that point.
So is that
Yeah.
the same as dealing with pain? Like once you go past. That's kind of my experience. It was very painful in the beginning, but
Yeah, that's right. There are these thresholds that you pass. You'll come to a point where you virtually never lose a meditation object again. You never forget it. That's a very important threshold to come to. And then you likewise come to a place where you never have to deal with strong drowsiness again. And you'll come to a place where you never have pain in sitting again.
what's the explanation for this, threshold once in a lifetime kind of thing?
Well, it is a training. The reason that you stop forgetting the meditation object is that you have trained your mind to where, from now on, if you stop meditating for 2 or 3 years and start it again, well, you're going to forget the meditation object, But you've trained your mind to a certain point, and it's like any other kind of training, like physical training or any other skill. Once you've mastered it, it's always going to continue. And all three of these things, the overcoming of dullness, you train your mind not to sink into dullness, and then once you've trained your mind not to sink into dullness, it doesn't sink into dullness, unless maybe you didn't get enough sleep the night before. But even then, even if you are meditating and you only had 2 hours sleep the night before, if you practice to the point where you've overcome dullness, you've trained your mind not to sink into dullness, it won't be nearly as difficult to meditate after 2 hours sleep as it would otherwise have been. And likewise, the bodily pain. The pain of sitting still, there is actually, it's related, I believe, to the energy, to the chi, and to what happens as the mind becomes trained into unification. That not only do you not have pain in sitting anymore, many of you, I'm sure, find that after you've been sitting for a while, you get up and your leg's asleep, or your foot's asleep, or something like that. It doesn't happen anymore. Or you're sitting there and there's this numbness and tingling that develops. And I don't have an authoritative source for telling you this, but in my experience, it seems that there's a certain point where the flow of chi in your body, due to the training of your mind, is such that your arms and legs and shoulders and things like that don't become strained, don't ache, don't fall asleep, don't become numb. And of course, once you reach that point, it's wonderful. It makes meditation so much easier. Yeah. But of course, if you haven't reached that point, and the only time you're not falling asleep is when your knees hurting so bad you can't stand it. And if it's not one of those two things, your mind's wandering. It's hard to believe. So, how can this ever happen? Maybe other people can do it. I can't. But yeah.
Yeah.
But these are just the ordinary results of continued practices. It becomes easier. Yes. Well, and now it's time for us to begin. I have the feeling, and my mentor, guide, and assistant suggested that perhaps I hadn't scheduled quite enough time for talking. I'm a talker, as you may have noticed. So.
but I found this kind of a group discussion really help. It's encouraging, sharing, and I feel lots of loving kindness here, and that really, I feel like lift up.
Good. I feel like they're good too, and I hope.
Uplift. I'm sorry.
Uplifting, yes.
Well, English is not my mother tongue. It's not my first language.
No problems. You do well. And I feel like I have so much that I want to share with you and tell you about, although sometimes it might be too much, but...
But please, we love it. Please, can you talk to us more?
I will do that. Anyway, maybe that is enough for tonight. So if you'd like to just briefly stretch, and then we'll sit together until 9. So how about 4 minutes? Just do whatever you need to do to be comfortable while we sit.